Hello, Libra. Welcome to the Sunflower Path. My name is Jess, and I'm going to go over the Mercury retrograde that begins November 9th and ends on November 29th. It'll begin in the sign of Sagittarius and then transition into Scorpio on November 18th, and it'll end in Scorpio. So when it first begins, it'll go through your third house, which is the house of communication, learning, any short local trips, and siblings and your neighborhood. Uh, into your second house, which is the money, values, your self worth, and any resources that you have. Mercury retrograde forces us to reassess. They could be about false starts, they could have shakeups in any foundations that we have. We are in the pre retrograde that brings already like off things going on in travel, technology, or communication. You may have exes or old friends that may return or take a look at your social media but not really say anything, or some of them may reach out. But retrogrades will happen during the holiday period in the US. So I wanted to look at how we could avoid any awkward or heated debates. If you're traveling, plan for any delays, and this is not the best time for any contracts. And I'll begin with looking at what you need to revisit during the Mercury retrograde, what you need to release, what are unknown factors that you need to be aware of, what are some precautions you can take, what needs to rest, and what will keep you in balance. I will pull out some oracle cards for any additional information, but we'll begin with the first three. That's fast. Okay. So we begin with the Five of Wands here, the Seven of Cups, and Death reversed. Well, the Five of Wands is also reversed. What number is Death? 13. So it comes down to 4. Okay. So any of those numbers might be important to you, but starting with the Five of Wands reverse as things that you need to revisit during this period. Anywhere where you had like an avoidance of conflict, like perhaps you sought out harmony to keep the peace, but you were not happy with it. You may have been forced to give up in that moment because there was like an impasse, or people were just being very stubborn with what they wanted. So you may need to release any inner tension, any unhappiness made with like decisions, perhaps, because this is something you need to release. And usually, this is all about different options and opportunities that were presented to you uh, that may have caused some inner tension. Hmm. You might have tried to keep the peace, but at the cost of your own, at the cost of your own peace. You may need to revisit anything that needs further cooperation, sorry. After like initial disagreements, things that felt like they weren't completely resolved. Now, maybe this was a decision that you had to make quickly, because usually with the Seven of Cups, you don't really know what's inside those cups. It could have been something that brought you joy, but also something that was poisonous or unhealthy for you, something that presented itself in a way that didn't actually match the description, if that makes sense. Kind of like false advertisement. I think that's the word for it. When it needs to be released, this decision that brought you a lot of inner tension, that forced you into like this people pleasing, I don't want to say behavior, because I don't think this is or maybe it is a repetitive pattern that you have, but I think it's just for this situation in particular. And since it's going through your third house first, this may have to do with siblings or your neighbors. Like you had to keep your peace with any siblings that you may have, any neighbors that you may have. Maybe there were a lot of miscommunications since the third house is ruled by Gemini. And you had to like work through that misunderstanding, but still not be happy with the end result. Death reverse is an unknown factor that you need to be aware of. That's something that hasn't been released, because usually with death upright, you're releasing the past in order to become something new, something that's stronger, healthier. But if it's in reverse, I'm wondering if you're clinging to an old pattern that no longer serves you, that you're currently feeling stuck, you're like resisting new changes, new phases. You may not have wanted a change, so in order to prevent that change, you just kept the status quo. You may be avoiding a certain difficult truth or unnecessary end, but you're clinging on to something that no longer is aligned with you anymore. And that's a factor that you need to be aware of. So let's look at the precautions that you can take. And what are things that need to be put to rest? Okay, that was like 30 cards. Let me try that again. I got 3 major cards going so far. What will keep you in balance? the Nine of Swords reversed. And at the bottom, you've got the King of Swords. Okay. So, what precautions you could take? You have Temperance. Trying to see what number that is. I think that's 14. So that comes down to 5 or plus 1, 5, yeah. I think it's 14. I really don't remember my Roman numerals right now. That's a 6 and 9. So I don't really see any repetitive numbers so far. But Temperance reverse is a caution. Or precaution that you can take, sorry. Be aware of any lack of focus. Like maybe you're going through one extreme area in your life to another extreme. Maybe you're throwing yourself into work to avoid any personal issues, or maybe you're too focused on relationships because that's an area to be put to rest, and that's a Lover's card. And if it's not relationships, since it's also ruled by or associated with Gemini, I'm wondering if it's a communication thing, like take a step back from speaking out, maybe. Sometimes silence says more than words. I think there's an actual phrase for that. Silence can speak louder than actions, something like that. This also may be like a precaution towards slow recovery, because usually this is all about like healing and balance and being at peace with yourself and in your environment. So perhaps you don't feel peaceful in the environment you are currently in, which makes sense because the third house is all about like your neighborhood. So I'm wondering if you're not feeling at home in the neighborhood that you're currently in. Or maybe you're being forced to travel and you don't really want to. Hence the force. But it's you need to release a lot of tension here. Where are you overindulging and where are you neglecting? I feel like that's a question I have to ask. As a Libra, you're typically a in balance. But this feels like you've been on one extreme to another. If you're healing from something, be incredibly patient with yourself. Give yourself a lot of grace. With the Lovers here, as what needs to just rest, maybe because this is also about like ethical decisions or major life decisions you have to make. Maybe it's also saying to step back from this decision making until you feel better, until you feel more in balance with yourself. You may be dealing with a Gemini. This is Gemini, this is Sagittarius, and you have Scorpio here. Those may be some signs that you may be dealing with. Hmm. Yeah, I think it's put to rest for now, at least, especially if it's during the holidays when you're dealing with, relatives that are coming over, siblings that you may be in conflict with. Just put those to rest for now. Making any choices that have lasting consequences or effects. Perhaps let someone else make those decisions if you have maybe like a partner or a spouse that could help you. The Nine of Swords reverse will keep you in balance. And this is, well, upright. This is usually someone experiencing a lot of inner turmoil. Swords are usually strife cards. But you may be confronting inner fears during the holiday period. You could be in a period of starting to heal. Again, if you're healing from something, uh, give yourself a lot of grace. Give yourself time. It could be negative self-talk because this could be associated with mental health. You're working through them instead of being completely consumed by any mental health issues or physical issues or the tension that you're feeling. And that will keep you in balance if you choose to work through it rather than keep it bottled up to where you become almost bitter and resentful. And with this at the bottom here, as it usually cards at the bottom of the deck are about hidden energies, the King of Swords is asking almost to detach yourself from the situation and act with integrity. Uh, you can speak your truths, and sometimes with that sword there, you may need to cut through some BS in order to really heal and recover. All right, I'm going to bring out some of your oracle cards here. Is there any additional information? Morning Star. Keep shining even when the others have quit. A morning star. That could be related to Venus. Because Venus has been known to be the morning star. But keep shining. Even when you feel like giving up, even when other people have given up on the situation, on what's going on, keep trying to heal, keep trying to release that inner tension. Don't give up on yourself, especially once Mercury retrograde goes through Scorpio and into your second house. It's going to make you start questioning your self-worth, your values, your relationship with money. So you may have that tension come through there as well. Maybe start doubting yourself. But keep shining. What is an additional message for Libra? Persistence. Okay. And that has the African swallowtail as the... I wonder if that's the butterfly. Probably is. Let's see what it says. Okay. Persistence means tolerating the hardships in life and thriving because of them. To persist is to fight whatever may come at you until you reach your goals and dreams. Keep going with passion and the knowledge you will reach the end. Set goals and go after them. Perseverance is action, constant forward momentum, and never giving up. Oh, keep shining even when the others have quit. Will determination is stronger than luck, smarts, or talent. Keep your end goal in sight with tunnel vision resolve. Things might be tough now, but the end will be so much sweeter when you get there. So ask yourself, what goals do I have that require persistence? And have I shown persistence in the past? Yeah, and that's what I have for you, Libra. I hope this helps. If it resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave me comments below if you'd like to share what you're experiencing right now, what's causing you that tension. And I hope you take care, and I'll see you next time.